Well, hi everyone. It's been a while, but today I want to show you one of the many uses for resin. And my son has these really cool coasters, but they're actually quite useless because they have a dome on them. And so if you set a glass on there, it'll just slide right off. So they're very decorative, but they're useless. So he asked me if I could do something with them to fix them. So I am going to try putting a resin coating over the top and see if we can level these puppies out. So I've put some painter's tape all around here and made sure that my seal is really good. And it's not perfect. Now it's going to stick. It's not perfect, but hopefully it'll be better than what he had before. And you know, it's an experiment. Sometimes experiments turn out great, sometimes they do not. So it's just going to be what it's going to be. We're going to do our best. Painter's tape is not a perfect thing, but I could not find a mold that would work for this. Plus they have these felt backs. And I didn't want to get resin on the felt back. I didn't want to try to remove that and leave all that ugly glue there. And I didn't really want to do these upside down in a mold anyway, because all of this part right here would catch air bubbles. I thought about painting resin on, but because it's self-leveling, it would just run right off. So we are going to do a pour and hold it back with this painter's tape. So I'm going to go ahead and get that out of the way, just in case the tape does not hold it back like it should. And I didn't know how much to mix up, so I just took a guess and I mixed 20 milliliters. I don't want it any thicker than it needs to be. And it is self-leveling. So it looks like we used, let's see, about 15 milliliters. And we've got quite a few micro bubbles in there, so I'm just going to hit it with the heat gun real quick. Okay, the edge is not going to be perfect, but we'll deal with that when we're all done. I really like to experiment with things like this and show you my experiments, because I am certainly no expert with this stuff, and so I make lots of mistakes, and hopefully you can learn from my mistakes, and I learn as I go too. And I hate to waste resin, so I'm just going to pour this off in the back of this coaster mold, and I will use it for the basis of a Christmas decoration, because Christmas is coming up. So I can put a rub-on or something on this little piece and drill a hole in it. Resin drills very well. So there we go. That's it. I will cover this up and we'll come back to it tomorrow and see how it turned out. Well, good morning, everyone. This has ended up sitting for 2 days, which I only intended for it to sit for 1 day, but you know, life comes up. So we're just going to peel off this painter's tape, and it should be good and set by now. I only meant for it to sit for 1 day, but that's okay. Well, it sure turned out nice and smooth. I like that. The doming effect is gone. Now we have this weird edge to deal with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chamfer this edge, and then I will deal with all 4 of them at the same time. So let me resin the other 3, and then we will do all 4 edges at the same time. But in the meantime, I'm very pleased with this. A glass should set on it just great. Nice and level there. I like to use painter's tape because it usually comes off pretty well. I want to make sure it's stuck really well all the way around the edges so that the resin doesn't leak out. That would kind of wreck the project here. All right, so on the first one, I had mixed up 20 milliliters of resin and I used about 15 of it. So this time I've mixed about 50 milliliters of resin to do all 3. And don't forget to warm your resin because cold resin will not off-gas or let the bubbles out very well. And so the resin cup feels warm in my hand. Now I'm just going to get all this other stuff out of my way just in case we get a leak and resin runs everywhere. Hopefully that won't happen. And we're going to start pouring. We want it to flow on its own to the edges to get a nice level. We don't want to have to push it. And I know you're not supposed to scrape your cup, but I need just a touch more. But I scraped the sides and the bottom really well while I was mixing it. And now I'm going to use my toothpick to release all these bubbles that are sticking in here. And then I'm going to hit it with the heat gun and we should be done. This is a low temp heat gun, by the way. Now I don't see any leaks, which is really good. There are a couple of bubbles right here that just won't release. So I will come back in a couple of minutes and try that with the heat gun again. Right there, they just won't pop. Oh, there, that one went. That one's just being stubborn. Okay, I will check back on these in a few minutes for bubbles and leaks. But other than that, we should be done until tomorrow. And we didn't have any leftover resin. We barely had enough. So I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Well, hi everybody. I am so excited to be working on these. This is a project for my son. So I just poured this resin yesterday. And it is set very good. It's very firm. This one looks really good. Of course, I'll have to clean up that little bit of tape there. It'll just scrape right off. We got a really nice edge on this one. And like I said before, we'll chamfer the edge and then I will I'll use my gold paint pen on it so that hopefully it will match the edge of the original coaster as well as possible. Oops, sticky tape. Okay, this one turned out very well too. Nice edge. Oops, if I can get it on the camera right. This one turned out very good. Nice edge. So 3 out of 4 so far have turned out well. I'm pleased with that. Oh, you know, I wondered why my lighting wasn't good here. I forgot to turn it on. Give me a sec. There we go. There's some better lighting. Still not great. It's kind of a dark day, and I depend a lot on the windows that I have in this room to help me out with the light. This one's looking very good too. I am really pleased with these. I was so afraid I was going to ruin his coasters because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to do this. But you can even see from the reflection here how nice and smooth they are. I did figure something out though. I was having trouble with the bubbles, getting them to pop and getting them to release from the coaster itself. I warmed the resin, but I didn't warm the coasters. And the coasters were cold to the touch. So I've now learned if I'm going to pour resin onto something cold, use a heat mat and warm it up first. So now I'm going to take my Dremel tool, which I don't have handy. I have to go up to the wood shop and get it. But I'm going to take my Dremel tool after I clean off the sticky from the tape, and I'm going to chamfer this edge. Okay, I took my Dremel tool to the very edge here and just took a little bit of this off. And that had kind of climbed up the tape a little bit, and so it made a weird edge. So now that looks rough and funny, and you could do that with an emery board too. So now I'm just going to take my paint pen, brand new paint pen, so there's no paint in it yet, of course. Oh, we're starting to get gold. Boy, that is like gold flake gold, like gold leaf flake gold. Okay, so anyway, now I'm just going to take and paint this edge, and I'll just do this all the way around with a steady hand, of course, and not get my other hand in it. Am I still on camera? It's hard to stay on camera sometimes. Oh, more dog hair in it. Okay. All right, and that's the end. So, where'd my cap go? There's my cap. Okay, so there's my edge. And it's not perfect between the resin and what it was, but we took an absolutely unusable coaster and poured and flattened the top and then finished the edge, and now we have a beautiful coaster that my son is going to love. So now I will just finish off the other 3 before I give them to him, and this has turned out to be a great project. So there we go, and I'll show you a picture of all 4 of them at the end. Let's see if I can talk right. I need a mixing cup. Just a mixing cup. Well, and this is from Amazon, so I don't know how old it actually is. That really did turn out nice.